Welcome to Closer to Venus. I'm Johnny Burke, and today's guest is Birgitta Visser. She is a soul empowerment coach, light configurator, and author of the forthcoming book, Be-coming Authentically. Today, we'll be talking about how she is a courier for those who wish to convey their messages across the veil. Birgitta, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Johnny. Thanks for having me.
So, courier for those who wish to convey their messages across the veil. I imagine that is a label for a channel. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. That's the first time I've heard someone use that description as a courier, as if you're carrying something.
Yeah, I'm like a bike messenger.
Okay.
And I say that because I'm Dutch, and the Dutch love to ride their bikes. So that's why I say I'm a bike messenger, a courier between the here and there.
What is a light configurator?
It's actually all in the wording. So a light configurator is, how do I put that? It's about configuring the darkness back to the light within. That's basically what it is.
Does that have anything to do with the duality that we live in, light and dark?
We live in such rapidly transformational times. It's almost like it's sped up in the last couple of months.
Couple of months. Now, might that be due to current events, or is it more like something that's happening in the background?
Oh, I don't keep up with the news. I don't have a TV. I don't keep up with all the illusion of the news. That's too much chaos for me. And as you know, I work with the Ascended Masters, and especially the Ascended Master Saint Germain. And as he always says, everything is an illusion. Right? We see the heroes. The heroes are portrayed as the villains, and the villains are portrayed as the heroes in the media. So we live very much in this upside down world. But maybe the world is the right side up. You know, it's very much Alice in Wonderland. They always make reference to that.
That's a very interesting point. And that makes me think of discussions we've had in the past on the show about life in between lives, that space where soul contracts and basically roles are accepted, assigned, and so on, where we come down here to often play roles.
Yes.
Is that okay? So that is pretty much on point.
That is very much on point.
Very, very interesting. Great stuff. So how did you find yourself on this path, learning the channel, being a light configurator, and also learning about Ascended Masters, which you just mentioned?
I went through a lot of trauma in my life, and we've all gone through difficult experiences, except I did not remain a victim, so to speak. I was abused as a kid. I did starve myself. I was assaulted in the modeling industry. I lost my dad when I was 14, and that dented my self-confidence. And I lost my stepdad when I was 25, and then I had a short stint with drugs. I was in very dysfunctional relationships because I didn't heal myself until I started my healing journey in about 2009. I did research and I rolled into Reiki, and I think that really helped me.
Question about trauma. I've been told several times that here on the show that if you're able to heal trauma, healing trauma for some people increases their psychic abilities.
Yes.
So that is true.
Absolutely. And there's a very simple formula for that. It's really the more you get rid of the trauma and the more you heal, I always say the more you hug it out with yourself and you forgive yourself and if you want others, and you return to that love of yourself, you lose the weight. Right? You become far more enlightened because you just lose it, and it's almost like this negative energy dissipates. So it's very true. You become a lot clearer.
Maybe there's a reason that some of us actually go through the trauma.
Yes.
And sometimes it's planned, as in pre-birth planning, which it's amazing. I've heard so many descriptions that are nearly identical, and it just boggles the mind because people think when they hear this, how could this horrible thing be planned? But apparently, I'm just going on what I've been told here, is that it's for the greater good of the soul group, you and or them, for everyone to learn. So since I just mentioned that, the soul group that is, you had mentioned Ascended Masters. I've heard about what that is. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you discovered them and how you learned to communicate with them?
Wow, I've known about them, oh gosh, many, many, many years. And I used to read the angel cards, gosh, starting early 2000s. When I was 21 and I was living out in Germany, I did communicate with the Ascended Master Saint Germain. Mm-hmm. And he took me up to this mountain retreat. And I'm telling you, Johnny, it was full of amethyst crystal. I have no idea where it was, but it was everywhere. And it was so calming. You could just lie down or you could just sit there and absorb that energy. And that was the first time that I known of the Ascended Master Saint Germain. Then kind of life took over. And then when I learned to channel properly, this was in 2016, I attended a workshop on divine channeling. And Alania Starhook, who was my mentor at the time, she did a meditation for the whole group. And I was just sitting somewhere outside the circle because I am like that. I like to sit on my own. And she counted to 3. I have no idea where I went. And when she counted back to 3, half an hour later, I was back in the room. Now, everyone had these amazing stories and visions. They saw the Ascended Masters, the Archangels, got messages, saw colors, everything. And I saw nada, nothing. I was really upset, and nobody saw me cry because I was wiping the tears away really quickly. But Alania had, when she started, she did one exercise. And she had a notepad and a pen, and she sat down and she said to Spirit, I am ready to receive. And that's how she started channeling and just writing. So I took that on board and I went home and I did that exact same exercise. And I think because I was so exasperated, or also because of everything that had gone on in my life at that point in time, because I was trying to get away from a dysfunctional relationship, and I just started writing. Then I looked down and I was like, oh my gosh, because partially it was like in prose and Old English.
Did you say Old English?
Yes, Old English.
Like OLDE English, like, yeah, 1800s, 1700s?
It was like thy and thou and a lot of prose. And I was like, oh, and I was sitting there and I was just honestly crying tears of joy. And so that's when I started to do it every single day. But I just asked questions and then I got the response. And then I started using the cards where I just pull a card, whether it was an Ascended Master or an Archangel, it didn't matter. And rather than looking it up on Google, I just sat with the energy and I asked if they had a message for me or if there were any past lives. And so that was really, really interesting. But you really have to, just like when you go to the gym and you want to work on yourself, you don't do it once and then it's like, okay, it's done. You really have to keep practicing.
A repetition. So
yes,
you mentioned you had actually had an encounter with Saint Germain.
Yes.
Now, the skeptics, they're going to say, okay, cool. That sounds really wonderful. How did you know it was, in this case, Saint Germain, or any of the Ascended Masters for that matter?
I knew because it's the energy. I don't know how to explain that. I mean, yes, they show themselves. They have different forms, of course. But I knew that when I saw him in those robes when I was 21 years old, I knew that it was the Ascended Master Saint Germain. I've not only met him, but I've also met Esther Sharon, however you pronounce it, Commander, or the Captain of the Galaxies, as I always call him, or Star Command. That was amazing at the time.
It would appear that that was the start of your journey channeling, right?
Yeah.
You seem to have met and encountered many different types of beings.
Correct.
Pleiadians, Venusians, Annunaki. Tell us a little bit about that, and what that was like, and how it actually happened.
And that's quite funny how that happened. For the Annunaki, I didn't ask about that. They just came through. And I just asked them, well, who are you? And so they told me. And their story is very, very interesting. I know there are many, many books out there. I haven't read them because when you read these books, you get influenced. And that's something that I didn't want. And it was very, very interesting. Annunaki have evolved in consciousness tremendously over the last probably millions and millions of years.
Millions? You said millions of years?
Yeah.
Okay. And what was their purpose? Were they trying to enslave humans, or is that not necessarily true?
Say.
Right. That's what the books say, right? Yeah. I don't know what to think.
I don't think it was just the Annunaki. You have the Draconians, you have the Reptilians. I met them before as well, and not all are bad. But there were galactic wars billions of years ago, if we want to talk about time. You've also got, I call them the felines for some reason. And they were very peaceful, but they were attacked. Planets were annihilated. They were nuked. Do you think nuclear technology is new? No, it's ancient technology. Come on.
Not the first time I've heard that, by the way. I've heard that before.
Yeah, and so even the Anunnaki, there was fighting amongst them. Yes, they created the human species, but they weren't the only ones. Because when you take the word human apart, you get you, which is you is light, and man. So we are light men. We are the light within. We are walking light men.
Right. It's so cool. I've never heard that. What does that have to do with light beings?
We are star seeds. We are encapsulated light within our human bodies. Without these bodies, we could not breathe the air. We could not evolve on this planet. But the Anunnaki were not the only ones, because I believe we carry about 23 different strands. And so there were others that were involved. You've got the Pleiadians, the Venusians, and many other beings, the Syrians, of course. So it's really amazing. We're amazing beings, but we just don't see it. We've been dumped down so much, but we are capable of incredible things. And we're here to return to a love for ourselves and others. But not only that, we are alchemists. We are alchemical beings. What I mean by that is, in the Renaissance times, when the alchemists turned lead to gold, it was really about transformation of the soul, of letting go of the heaviness within our experiences and transforming that, healing, and returning to a lighter state of being. That's what it's about. And it's not only that, we're here to learn to manipulate the energies and to understand the energies, to understand that we are manifestors in everything that we do and what we create, because we create our lives. Mm-hmm. The energy corresponds. What we vibe out is exactly what we vibe back in.
You get what you give, that type of thing? Okay. I know this might be a question for another day, but I'm going to ask anyway. Knowing what you know, why are we here on Earth? What's the point?
To evolve, to return to a love for ourselves, to remove the heaviness, and to help one another returning back home. That's in a nutshell. But then you get a lot of other questions.
Right. That might be an entirely different episode, because there's quite a few rabbit holes in this content, to say the very least. Now, since we're talking about Earth and the galactic arena or the galactic realm, you've had past lives, both earthly and galactic. I've not heard too much about the galactic sort. Can you tell us what that's like and how it's different from an earthly past life, if at all?
Totally different. Totally different. I cannot even describe a galactic fleet to you. If we look at Star Trek, it's kind of like that, but even Star Trek is a little bit dinosaur. But then every sci-fi movie has an element of truth in it. It's not just imagination. There's an element of truth in it. I think that's fabulous. But many of the other beings are not as dense like we are in our human embodiment, so to speak. It's very hard to explain. I have been on one of these fleets and one of these ships. I can't even describe the technology on it. The very sleek design. I can't even describe it.
Our brains might explode.
Yeah. And it's not only that, Johnny. There's so many different beings. It's not just the Syrians, the Venusians, the Pleiadians, but there are millions of other beings. I've seen what I call the squid heads. They're also amazing healers. When I do my channel, my light language, I work a lot with the aquatics, as I call them, which are from the Syrian star belt. And there are too many. Some of them, they look like they've got like fish heads, but it's not quite like that. I can't even describe them. Or I see others that are smaller and very furry. They're blue. It's fascinating.
Do you think that many of us have had galactic past lives, as it were?
Yes, absolutely.
And are not even aware of it.
Not aware of it. But some of us may have been in the Galactic Wars. I've been in the Galactic Wars and I've been killed many a time, But time out there, I always say time is an illusion. So here, it's like we're in this bubble. For us, 100 years, for them could be a year, for instance. I can't put my finger on that, but it's like just a snapshot in time.
I've heard time is an illusion.
Yes.
From quite a few people who've been on the show before, as if certain past lives or basically everything is happening all at once. So a past life, according to some speakers, the intuitives or mystics, is not really so much past, but it's like a parallel life. Do you find the same thing?
Yeah, we are multidimensional beings. Mm-hmm. So we exist simultaneously. I try to wrap my head around it sometimes, and it's just like, yeah, but I exist in the now, here. Yeah, but you also exist on different planes, which is true. I understand it, but I'm like, yeah, but I'm still here.
You apparently had some experiences in your past lives that go back quite a ways. I'm always curious to know, what are some of the oldest memories you have in terms of past lives?
Well, of course, the Galactics.
Mm-hmm. Earthly past lives.
The earthly, I've got to go back to the beginning of time. And that is, let me skip one of them. It's in my book, but I've lived in Atlantis. I've lived in Lemuria, but I remember Atlantis more. I've been an Aztec. I've lived my life as one of the royals in France. I've lived in the Middle Ages. I've just kept on going. But one of my aspects was Nimrod. And Nimrod was, as they said, the creator of the Tower of...
It's not the Tower of Babel, is it?
Yes, it is. It's so vastly misconstrued. And actually, he was a giant, very hairy, and he was a giant. Everything in history has been misinterpreted on purpose. And was he evil? No, he wasn't evil. Did he make mistakes? Of course he made mistakes. But he was a hybrid. And he was there to help humanity. And when we talk about the Tower of Babel, it's really about where the ego crept in and that separation crept in. And everything got lost in translation because people didn't live from the heart anymore. That is the difference. That's what it is about. There's nothing left of Babylon, just like there is nothing left of ancient Egypt. Nothing.
Right. Okay. Going back to Atlantis for a moment. Dying to know this. So, first of all, you have no doubt that Atlantis existed because apparently you and probably many of us had past lives there.
Yeah.
What did the architecture look like? Are there any illustrations that are accessible that can show us? It's one of the things I've been curious about forever.
How we currently build and structure our homes is very dinosaur compared to these amazing, what you call ancient, actually futuristic cities that were built, because everything was built according to the ley lines of the land, right? Everything was done in harmony with the earth. People don't care these days. They just build wherever. And I think that's such a big difference. Atlantis was built on what I call a crystal grid, but they also used crystalline energy. People don't use that today because, governments can't make money of that. And in that way, we are very much enslaved because there's only 1% that rule the world. And even though not everyone is awake, which is okay because we all awaken in our own timing, humanity has been enslaved. Our soul was not designed to live this way.
One of the reasons I bring that up is because I've heard a lot of converging theories about Atlantis and the fall of Atlantis and why it happened. And it seemed to be, I think you just touched on this, we stopped living from the heart where greed and avarice kind of took over, which if you could actually put consciousness on a chart and give it a mathematical value, you would see it starting to go down at some point. Is that a reasonable explanation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And they were more advanced, not only the technology, but consciousness-wise. There have been those people that would say we were living in a fifth dimension society where like things like telepathy was completely normal.
It was.
Wow.
It was. And kids were schooled according to their abilities. So some would say would become like a farmer or a priest or a priestess or learn about herbs. It was all about their abilities and what they were good at. Here we just go to school and we get these subjects within the Atlanteans because due to the sons of Belial made hybrids, half animals, half humans, like the Minotaurs. And the Minotaurs, by the way, beautiful creatures. Yeah, they did exist.
So in other words, the ancient art of Egypt, which depicts half human animals and hybrids, that wasn't a fiction, that actually happened?
Yeah, so many of the Atlanteans started to rebuild their lives in Tibet, I think in the South Americas and in ancient Egypt. Now, how do I explain what they look like? They were incredibly intelligent, incredibly light and tall. They were not half-breeds. That was just the masks that they wore. They call it like retractable masks. I don't even know what kind of metal that was. It's very, very light. But underneath it, when you see them, they were kind of translucent.
Like a light being almost.
Yeah, absolutely. Just amazing. Because when they went to Egypt to rebuild society, what they found there were nomads. And that was very, very different. And so they educated these people. But nothing is left of ancient Egypt. I mean, look at the pyramids. Do you really think, Johnny, that these were tombs? No, these were energy transponders. Mm-hmm. And they were gold capped.
Like the ones in Mexico.
Yes.
I've been to the pyramids in Mexico and I'm thinking,
wow,
they're there for a reason. My guess is it has something to do with an energy grid. And yes, what you just explained about how the Atlanteans migrated to certain areas like the South Americas and Tibet and other places I'm probably not even aware of, these pyramids show up all over the world.
Yes, they do. Yeah. It's baffling to me that scientists are trying to figure out how the pyramids were built. Yes, it was gravitation, and it wasn't just the humans. It was other light beings, other star seeds that helped with that. Because life was very different back then. Many other species, if you want to call it that, they intermingled. But what do we know now? We've been dumbed down so much that we think, oh, aliens. Oh, well, wait a minute. Actually, we're the aliens because we've alienated ourselves from our brothers and sisters up there.
Good point. I remember one of my early interviews with a medium named Siri Burnson. She was affiliated with the Forever Family Foundation, and they were actually in the Netflix special Surviving Death. She had an experience with what she called a star being, because I had used the word alien, like many people do. And she said they don't like being called that because alien means apart, and they are not apart from us. And I'm hearing that more and more. In some, people waking up, you mentioned this at the very top of the episode where there has been a transformation accelerating. Yeah. Is that part of ascension? Is that part of coming out of the Piscean age and moving to something different? Or what is it exactly?
Yes, it has to do with that. It has to do with the planets, actually. And that's why everything's accelerating now. I think we came out of the Aquarian age, and isn't it Saturn in Pisces right now?
I believe the progression, as far as I've been told, is coming out of the Piscean age and moving into the Aquarian age. I don't know whether that's already started or if it's going to be in the near future, or I have no idea.
No, it has already started because it started earlier this year. Yes, it did. So it's Saturn, the planet of commitment and of discipline. That's that planet, yeah. And it's entered Pisces, and it did that in February of this year, and I think it will last till 2026. The other problem that we're having is that Neptune is involved, and Neptune kind of murkies the waters a little bit, because Neptune is the planet of doubt, confusion, deception, and that fogginess in the head. And that is actually a good thing, because with this acceleration at the moment, it makes people think about things. Things are starting to resurface quicker, and you cannot suppress these emotions. You can't whack-a-mole these emotions back into its little pot, because somewhere this dis-ease within your body will come out. So heal it, because that is very, very important. If you want to improve your life, you have to deal with these emotions, with this trauma that is coming up and that's bubbling up to the surface.
I think you explained that quite well, because I think there's always been a lot of confusion about why this transformation is happening now. One last question. I'm not sure if this has a lot to do with what we've been talking about or not, but I've always wanted to ask you, because you mentioned this before, the Rosicrucians. Why is the history of the Rosicrucians relevant, or is that a topic for another day?
So my dad was a Rosicrucian, and I did know that, but I did not know what that entailed, because in the 1980s, there was no Google. Right? Everything was done via the mail. So he got sent modules every week, or it was every month he got sent a module. And I had no idea what it was about. And the Rosicrucians, they stem from Atlantis in ancient Egypt. And it's all about transformation. The Ascended Master Saint Germain, as Le Comte de Saint Germain, when he was living in France, of course, he was a Rosicrucian. Abraham Lincoln was a Rosicrucian. There were many Rosicrucians, and many of them were murdered. I think Thomas Edison was one, Albert Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci.
Would you say they were ascended masters?
So in human form, of course, they were Rosicrucians, like the Ascended Master Saint Germain. He's an Ascended Master now. One in ancient Egypt, one of the pharaohs who set up the mystery schools. He is Lord Kutumi, also an Ascended Master now. But many of the Ascended Masters have lived many, many lifetimes in order to ascend and to understand love and to understand life, because you can sum it up in one word. Why are we here? To love and to return to a love for ourselves. And I think that's very, very important, because once we love ourselves, right, we can love others and accept them the way they are. And we would embrace one another and not see a difference, because there is no difference between any of us. And the world will be, my gosh, the world will be a better place.
Another thing I've heard a lot lately is when you talk about separation is an illusion.
Yes.
Is that true?
Absolutely.
I think that's a good note to end on for everyone to remember. Anything else we need to know, or might we have to have a part 2?
It's always good to have a part 2. It's so important to live your life authentically and return to the authentic nature of yourself. As they call it, the wholesome, the awesome, authentic nature of yourself. It's so, so important. Why choose to be someone else? Because you'll make your life more difficult. Just be yourself in everything that you do. And that's hard, because many people wear different masks. Ditch the mask and just be yourself. We're not in this bowl masquerade anymore. It's time to ditch that 3D consciousness and shift to that 5D mindset.
There you go. To be continued. Birgitta, thanks so much for joining us today. Very entertaining, very, very educational. How can our listeners learn more about you online?
Through my website, which is powersoulhealing.com.
I will put that in the show notes and the transcript as well. You've been listening to Closer to Venus. I'm Johnny Burke. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing. For more info, go to closertovenus.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.